next speaker is a lawyer who heads Cathy Lerman, who is a principal of the Lerman law firm, and she's a whistleblower lawyer. We've heard a lot about whistleblowers in Washington these days. Cathy Lerman represents whistleblowers, and she's been conducting a whistleblower investigation of the Broward Supervisor of Elections Office. She's one of the most fearless and courageous lawyers I know, and we're very pleased to have her here tonight. Cathy.
Good evening. First of all, I want to tell you, it's an honor to me to be among the speakers tonight. It's an honor because you have some of the greatest experts in America who understand electoral fraud and understand exactly what's going on in Broward County. What I'm going to tell you is what I can tell you. I have been and always do work with law enforcement, both state and federal, on any type of investigation. So what I give you tonight is the pieces that I can give you. But I came here to tell you something you probably already know. We need to take back control of Broward County. We need to take it back from the corrupt politicians, the lawyers, the lobbyists, and their cohorts who have stolen our constitutional rights as voters, rigged our elections, and defrauded our residents. I am very passionate about this issue. Probably 2 years ago, I wasn't as passionate because I didn't know as much. But the other thing that happened was the Parkland massacre and the voting after that. And I'm going to talk about that. And I'm going to talk about how I saw a community I believe had come together, supposedly splinter completely in an election, which I don't believe is true. The people of Parkland don't believe it's true, and the families of the victims don't believe it's true. But I digress. What I should be talking to you about tonight, and Tim would enjoy me having this discussion with you, would be about the electoral fraud and vote rigging that resulted in the conviction of Brenda Snipes. That's what I should be talking to you about. Because the prior Broward County Supervisor of Elections, pursuant to a court order, was determined to have violated both public records laws, voting laws, as well as election laws at the state and federal level, which were felonies. The ruling against Snipes came out of a case that Tim Canova filed in a lawsuit from the 2016 election. I'm sure all of you know about it, raising multiple irregularities in the voting process, blatant violations of law, and corruption. Tim had challenged Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and Schultz ended up the winner in a very controversial race. However, I am a lawyer and have been one for more than 3 decades in this state. I know when the fix is in. And as far as I'm concerned, the fact that Snipes was never brought to justice is unconscionable. And it's unconscionable on every level, whether it's law enforcement, the judicial system, or whoever else. Snipes was allowed to walk away with a resignation and a $130,000 pension after she's fixed every election she's been involved in since she started. That is disgusting. But I didn't get into this until the Parkland massacre, and then my attempt by my law firm to help pro bono the Parkland victims, who the families really wanted to bring in new blood in the Broward County School Board, people who care about our children and not their paycheck or their spouse's paycheck that comes from the Broward County School Board. That's when I got involved. So when I saw the election results in August of 2018, I didn't believe them. And I decided to myself, and it was a gut feeling, but I trust my gut, you need to pursue this. Part of my practice is public corruption. Others is securities violations. I deal with Ponzi schemers all the time. Trust me when I tell you, I'll take a Ponzi schemer any day over a corrupt politician. They have much less impact on your world. A few days after the election, we issued a press release announcing a corruption investigation of the Supervisor of Elections Office for Broward County for both corruption and fraud. In my press release, I asked members of the public to please come forward and provide me with information about irregularities in the voting process and corruption in what I'm going to call the SOE, so I don't keep saying Supervisor of Election and you get tired of hearing it. And come forward, they did. People from all over this country, mostly either residents of Florida or prior residents of Florida, or absentee voters from Florida, contacted me with a multitude of issues. Many were willing to help me, but what struck me was they were afraid. They were, and why? Why would you be afraid to come forward about a voting issue? Well, I know why. We'll get to that. They came forward, and as I talked to them, many of them I referred out to various agencies, the Florida Election Commission, the FBI, the governor's office, and some other regulatory agencies, which I won't mention now. What they brought up to me was multiple types of voter fraud. But what struck me was that I got several calls from people who were software and data management experts from around the country, particularly California. These people told me that they believed the software that was being used by SOE was manipulated and the algorithms were changed to make sure that the result was as SOE desired. And they were clear on that because they had run an analysis of several of the races and found that the results were statistically impossible. Now, I am just a lawyer. I don't know what statistically impossible means. I just know that that means it's highly unlikely that the results we received were actually true. And I believe it more now after talking to over 200 voters, or people who tried to vote, who told me several things about the problems that they had with voting. There were voters who were out of state who requested absentee ballots 3, 4, 5 times and never received the ballot. I had people who told me, they called Snipes' office and said, I will pay for the FedEx. If you will FedEx the voter card to me, I will pay for it. They still never received it. Voters who completed absentee ballots found after the fact that the SOE website said they never voted, even though they knew they had mailed in their voter registration. Other voters had requested an absentee ballot, but decided at the last minute, because they happened to be in town and they thought they were going to be gone, that they would go to the polls and they would vote. Well, guess what? They had already voted. I talked to at least 8 separate husband and wives who were under that scenario. How is that possible in a system that is being properly monitored, guarded, and checked? It's not. Then I had voters who had requested an absentee ballot, but ended up not voting, didn't send it in, had a relative get sick, guess what? They went on the SOE website and they had voted, which was kind of amazing. Then I had situations where voters reported that the names of some of the candidates were missing on their ballot. When they questioned it with the poll workers, they told them they had no idea why that was and to just complete their ballot and move on. That is unacceptable. And some of those people are Parkland family representatives, which makes it even more frustrating and irritating for me to deal with. Other voters were told, and no offense to whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, or you're some voters received Democratic ballots even though they were registered Republicans, because they were told that their registration had expired, and under the SOC rules, they defaulted to the Democratic ballot. Yay. Now, I don't know
What in the world?
If that's actually a true rule or not, but that sounds pretty unfair to me. I mean, I'm just saying, okay?
Yeah.
Then, some voting facilities on the last day of voting, which is always usually the largest day, were inaccessible, particularly in areas where there's a large elderly population who live around it and would need to walk to it. And so you make it inaccessible, and none of those people vote, which is exactly what happened in Sunrise. That one I will name. Now, in addition, there were power outages at multiple facilities during the voting process, and voters were told to just complete your ballot and turn it in. When they questioned, well, how do I know, like, my whole vote counted? They were told, don't worry about it, we'll make sure it's correctly counted. And that's all they heard. In addition, there were some ugly allegations of votes for sale at some of the polling places in Broward, particularly on the east side of the county. That's as far as I can go with that. Here's where I get really ticked off, because I do a lot of elderly financial exploitation work, because Ponzi schemers tend to prey upon elderly people. Elderly people in droves reported that they felt intimidated and threatened by poll workers if they asked questions about the process or needed help. Republican voters, no offense, stood in line for hours at one polling place, and I'm talking 2 or 3, because they were told that their machine was broken, while the Democrats, using the other machine, were walking right through, voting and leaving. Democratic voters' cheat sheets were illegally passed out at the polls of one facility in Sunrise, right by the door to the polling facility, which is totally illegal, with a guard standing right there watching it and poll workers standing behind the door. As you can imagine, after hearing all this, I was convinced I was right that the August 2018 election was just a repeat of the 2016 election, where Snipes had been in control, and that in fact every election in which Snipes had been in control had been rigged. And I believe that today. But I don't believe Snipes acted alone. Please don't think that we make her the bad guy and everybody else walks away. No one pulls off a scam like this by themselves, particularly when it comes to multiple methodologies, including the manipulation of software used by SOE to count the votes. There is no way Brenda Snipes could pull that off herself. She had a lot of help. She had lawyers, lobbyists, friends, politicians, and others in her command who did what she wanted done. So it is with a great deal of pleasure and also a lot of angst that I call on the Department of Justice, Office of the Inspector General of the United States in Washington, D.C., to initiate an investigation into the 2016 and the 2018 elections in Broward County to find out if, in fact, the elections were rigged. Our community deserves to know the truth. And if we have to go to Washington to get it, then, you know, that's the way it is. But let me say one other thing that's going to make me more unpopular with the legal community in Broward County than I am now. I don't understand why Mike Satz, who is the Broward County State Attorney, has never done anything to address the judgment that Canova got against Brenda Snipes. And I don't understand why no other prosecutor in Broward County has done anything to address the judgment that Canova got against Snipes, finding her guilty of multiple felonies. And just like the vote rigging, I don't believe she acted alone. And I think people are being protected, and it is totally unacceptable. I wonder, is she one of the many untouchable politicians in Broward County? As you know, and as everybody every day now talks about the Parkland shooting, justice demands accountability. As residents of Broward County, we are painfully aware of what happens when there isn't accountability, integrity, and truthfulness. We have paid a high price for corruption and self-serving conduct in this county. We cannot stand by and permit electoral fraud and corruption to continue unchecked. But we have to stand together in this county, in this state, and in this nation as a group of people to stop electoral fraud. As great as it is that all of you are here, this is not enough firepower to get these people. And this is going on everywhere, and I believe that in all of these states, there is collusion among the people who are doing the vote rigging. There is no doubt in my mind. After talking to people all over the country, telling me the same story I'm hearing from the voters in Broward. So we need to understand that permitting this just ignores the will of the people. The vote of the people is never recognized here because it's being manipulated by corrupt politicians. For once, I listened to him, and I'm only doing 10 minutes. Thank him later. I'm going to leave you with one last thought. When I announced my corruption investigation, I was somewhat stunned by the number of lawyers who told me I was crazy, I was committing career suicide, and I was wasting my time. Their opinion was that the Broward SOE was corrupt. They admitted that. But I was never going to prove it, and the SOE and other politicians would retaliate against me. I thought about that for a minute and concluded that if I didn't do anything, then I was complacent in what I felt was a public corruption at many levels, including the prosecutorial level. As a lawyer, I took an oath to uphold the law and the Constitution of the United States, and until the day I die, I intend to do that. And I want my brothers and sisters in the bar to get off their butts and help me and all of us throughout the United States who are fighting to right this wrong do what they took an oath to do. But it didn't take me long to get over they're going to ruin your career, they're going to ruin your life, yeah, whatever, okay? Because I went back to a mantra that I've had for a long time. If you stand for nothing, you will fall for anything. And that's where we are right now. So you are either standing with us or you are useless. And I don't believe the people of Broward County are useless. I know they care about who our elected officials are. They care about our children. They care about our security and our safety and our community. And I don't believe that all my fellow members of the Florida Bar are as fraidy-catty as the ones who, warned me. I believe that we must make the decision to go after truth and justice in the deception which is Broward County and fight it with everything we have. Thank you for listening to me. May God bless you all and the great state of Florida.
Thank you so much, Cathy. And I could relate to a lot of what she said. Obviously, I think many of us could. We've been waiting for the Broward bench and bar to step up and to speak out and to call for justice. In our case against Brenda Snipes, we've got sworn videotape depositions of Brenda Snipes admitting to destroying ballots. That's handing prosecutors the case on a silver platter with a nice bow tied on it, and we're still waiting for prosecutors to wake up. For those who want to help support the programs that we're running, progressforall.org, thank you all for being here. Very much appreciated.